Now, I used to think that it was more of a joke or a parody of a certain stereotype that the people like to be people pleasers for some random reason, and that they have decided consciously that they are just going to joke about themselves, make joke at their own expense, and just move on the topic of my videos and channel, and just to not to take it just that much seriously and not to be really like people pleasers. But that sickness of the 21st century has been something that has been just growing and growing for the past a decade and a half, even more, close to 2 decades in a couple of years. But people are messy and complicated. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the S2E9 episode. Today I'm going to cover one of the worst traits of a humankind that has been existing, I know, ever since, even before I was born or you were born or anything of that nature. But a people-pleasing crowd momentum type of personality has been killing the individuality very, very often. And currently in this day and age, in this age and stuff, when you look at individuality as a concept, as the abstract thought, you're going to see the pattern that individuals themselves have severely distanced themselves from the herd and are now trying to work on their own and trying to figure out the names of for them in the universe, and try to figure out that is it something worth doing. And the death of individuality is a really complex topic, and we don't have that much time to talk about in the first place because it's But point is that the 21st century, the waiter syndrome has been severely hitting all societies in the world, all around the world, and has been very consistent and purposeful, if I have to say honestly. And what do I mean by that is that if you're currently wherever you are as I'm speaking to you into this YouTube channel or video, you're probably going to remember some certain situations in which you have seen people stoop so low to please everybody around them, and then nobody was there for them afterwards in the first place. For those exact same people, they would please to walk around eggshells and behave whatever the fuck they wanted to behave, and it resulted in a very poor results in the first place, where you just you see the point from your angle, even if you're a teenager or a grown adult, as I'm currently speaking, and you're seeing from the angle back then. Now, back then, when I used to watch people be these people pleasers and their terrible antics and their terrible words craftsmen and situationships they have built it themselves. What I mean by situationship, this isn't like you're fucking a girl in her ass and your guys are holding hands watching Netflix and chill, you're eating her pussy, she's sucking your dick, but it's still not a relationship. This situationship has no point in the first place. What I mean by that is that those people pleasers, when I used to look at them, I used to think like maybe they're joking, maybe it's a parody. Like a naive child in me was like, maybe they're fucking joking, bro, maybe they're not that much people pleasers in the first place. And as the time passed by and as I grew into a person I am today, I just unfortunately, and now you have to use flamaster with the red marker like on Slava 3 days. Now you're going to see that joking of mine was not a joke, and the people are actually like that. How many people have I seen do that in general, overall? X, Y, Z. But probably closer to X, Y, I'm probably certain. And that's has been one of the things that has been disgusting me, is when people do that intentionally. You know they're doing it intentionally, you know it's very toxic and not doable, I mean in a sense that it doesn't pay off in the long run. So when you're a people pleaser, it can only should be, as a law, should be implemented like a very brief amount of time. It shouldn't be longer, like years and years you spend pleasing people, and they strip away your identity very, very quickly. They strip away your ideologies, your dreams, your perception of the world, your desires, your needs, human needs as a human being. They strip away from you very quickly, and by the time you become like a hotel running person to that person, even though that same person you're people pleasing will never show up in your life ever again, and they're only using you as a means to an end. So if you're trying to be this people pleaser cocksucker, you just have to understand that they're going to shoot you in the head when the time is right. And usually for them the time is right. They will never appear for you. They will never hand you any money as a help. They will never support you. They will never take you seriously. And the greatest death of a human personality, of human soul, of human brain is not being taken seriously. So when the collective decides that you're just a people pleaser and nothing more and nothing less, then it's very difficult to erase that identity, because they keep it in their folders, they keep it in their archives, they keep it in their mind, and what they only see. And trust me, this disease in the South, it's very difficult to erase, is if you were that some person like 10 plus years ago, they're still going to remember that you were, and it's going to take you fuck of a lot difficult time to erase it. Now you're probably going to say, yeah, I've distanced myself from the people, and now we can clash as you and I are speaking about the perception and how, for example, personally, I don't give a fuck what people think about me. I'm already the antagonist and I'm just playing my role in the first place. All the world is stage, as William Shakespeare Turkovich would say. Now the point is, even if you find new people and still you moved on from that first group you left in the first place due to inconceivable, as when people get divorced, they say irreconcilable, whatever the fuck differences. When you live for those differences aside and alone, now even those people that you left, they only see you as that person and nothing more but that. And it's really painful when I watched some people in my youth, and even I'm still young for myself. I used to watch it when I was this naive kid, and I used to believe like in the people's kindness. Anyway, sorry. And it was very painful for me, and the thing that I'm keep mentioning painful is that the fact I couldn't help them in the first place, even though I didn't want to. I was an asshole, like a really high school asshole in the first place. But deep inside of me, I kind of hated that they were being taken advantage of and they couldn't do anything about it. And when you're a people pleaser, as I look at them from the distance, and I was the traitor, the black sheep of the partisan Belgrade family. Now you have to understand that as much as I wanted to reach out, I kind of felt that all of my sides, good and bad, angelic and demonic, were like, no dude, you shouldn't help them, that's their own burden to carry. And it's kind of turned right to be in the first place, because the experience has taught me that whenever I have tried to help someone to get them to become better versions of themselves, I would end up on the antagonist list, and it was always me, the bad guy, who just tried to help someone. So I kind of gave up in the long run to try to help people, because I've noticed it doesn't pay off and it doesn't mean anything. In the great scale of things, it kind of doesn't mean anything at all. So the point I'm trying to make is that this people pleasing has been spreading in my country of Sorabendia, and it's very terrible, and it's very sad when you watch those people, especially when you combine the two recipes for disaster, the eggshell people and the people pleasing people. So when you combine those two ideologies, when you combine those two Chernobyls of interactions, by using logic, one of my favorite things of science, is the outcome is going to be very inevitable and toxic and tragic, Shakespearean alike. You see, the eggshell people, they love to hear only chirps of the birds and to believe that there is only chocolate and marmelada in the cities, in the world, and overall. They don't like the truth. The concept of the truth is very forbidden, alike the same way some books in 20th, 19th, 18th, 17th century have been banned. Like 1984 or, things of that nature. But you have to understand that eggshell people are the type of people that should be avoided at all costs until they restart themselves. What do I mean by that is that they're going to have some main quest in which they're getting betrayed, backstabbed by somebody they used to believe in, and when they figure out that lies they have been living in have been only lies and illusions, they're going to be severely disappointed, and it's going to take them a fuck of a lot of time to embrace the new personality, because the eggshell people can, not all the time, but can, rarely, but can become people who are very transparent and allergic to bullshit. But as I mentioned just a few seconds ago, it can, but don't put your hopes in it. And the people pleasers are very difficult to convert, in a sense that to tell them that they shouldn't be people pleasers, because that people pleasing syndrome that started in the early 2000s in Sorabendia up until now has been very detrimental for their own personal spirit. And I know there are, unfortunately there are a lot of people in Sorabendia who are people pleasers, and they unfortunately believe that there is nothing wrong with that, even though you have to tell them the outcomes that are going to do it's going to be very negative for them, because the type of people that have been neglecting themselves in the first place, and they have been neglecting themselves for the sake of others, usually the ending of that book is never good. Like 99% of them is never good. So even you can compare slavery and people pleasers, and when you look at that comparison, it's not very pleasant to the human eye. And what do I mean by that is that when people decide to be people pleasers, it's very sad to watch them trying to, there's like this thing at throat that I kind of feel this anger and bitterness and hatred for. They've decided to be people pleasers because you look at them, when you pause the moment in downtown of any city in Sorabendia, we can go to Belgrade, Novi Sad, Krag, whatever the fuck, and when you look in their eyes, you can see the tiredness, you can see their clothes, that thread of them believing in human kindness, it's very thinned out, and it's almost to burst, to break, to implode, and nobody's going to help them, because they have decided by pleasing other people they have forgotten themselves, and they have put the folder of themselves in some folder in their computer, in their mind, that they cannot for the life of them remember where it was. And it's kind of sad to see them be people pleasers. And I used to judge them a lot. I mean, I used to shit ton a lot of them about the people pleasers, but now I understand it's the choice they made to be like that. And now I cannot speak for anyone in that concept or context for them. They have decided, but it's me who is saying you can, but there are bigger consequences than payoffs, because you don't understand. If you're a people pleaser, that means anybody and everybody and somebody and someone can just call you randomly on your phone number and ask you some random favor that has nothing to do with the reality. And if you're going to be a yes man, that's the death of yourself. Because you have to understand that you have to drop that bullshit of people pleaser. People pleasers were the first person to get shot in the head in the first place. That's my topic of today's video. In the first place, you have to put yourself. You cannot just go around about the life and just try to make everybody happy but you. If you keep doing that, eventually you're going to jump in that lake called depression, and you're going to try to find some ring that's at the darker aspect of the darker depths of that lake, and you're trying to be like, gee, where's my ring of myself? I kind of forgotten it, and it's in that darker, lower aspect of the lake called depression, and it's going to take you a fuck of a long time to recover from it, recuperate as well. But you have to understand that these people mentality have been ones that fall for destroying the individuality to the 21st century, because being individual, it's very demonized by the collective, because the collective love their own herd when they are retarded, submissive, and they say yes to anything that has been given to them and spewed in their mouth. So when you are kind of the rebel and you're trying to tell them to go fuck themselves and they're just a bunch of annoying faggots, that's just when the friction happens, because the herd, the collective, loves their people, sheepish alike, submissive. So imagine that if you're going to a gym and you're unable to do any sit reps, you just have to watch and bystand. And by the herd, they're doing nothing. They're just, imagine like 7 retarded dudes or 6, which is a tradition in Sorabendia, where they just stand by the machines and don't do anything. Imagine if you're trying to bench press, there are 5 dudes around the bench press and they're not doing anything. Or if you want to run on a treadmill, there are like 6 girls in their leggings with their fat asses, and they are taking selfies for Instagram and posting some non-related, illogical, philosophical bullshit that has nothing to do with them or with the song or anything in the first place. So those Mrs. Clitoris category are a very difficult tragedy, but that's not the point for this video. The video is about the people pleasers. So imagine going any object of parties, or as I mentioned in my previous video, coffee shops, coffee bars, pizza restaurants, whatever the fuck, and you see people pleasers all day in, month out, year in, year out, and it's going to wear you out eventually, because that danger, it's one thing for you to believe you want to make people happy, but you have to understand, at least try to make your close circle happy. Anything outside of it is just up to them. So it's not in your duty of the Constitution of Sorabendia to make people happy. People have to be happy for themselves in the first place if they want to get back beyond, without jumping into the lake called depression, because depression is telling you need a deep rest from the fuck you, depression from the role you have been role playing for years and years, and the body and the soul are kind of tired, and even the heart can no longer withstand that bullshit. And when you're trying to decompose about that pressure, now you're feeling the same way you have been in some depth of the body of water, so we can say like a sea, a lake, or an ocean, and depression is an ocean. So when you put yourself at the middle of the depths of the ocean, and you're in the scaphander, whatever the fuck, and you feel the pressure up here, and you feel it in your nose, in your nostrils, and the atmosphere is no longer the same, and you can no longer find yourself. And the thing is, the depression is kind of like a symbolism where you have to go back in that ocean and find yourself, which is the hardest battle boss you're going to do. So avoid being a people pleaser, because those people don't mean anything good to you. They only mean to shoot you in the head when you're no longer the house Negro or a slave, because they love their slaves and they hate free people. Being free is not being a people pleaser. It means making your own drum and understanding that in this case and context, being free is no longer being a people pleaser, but only for yourself. Because you have to understand that in the 21st century, the herd is now trying to push people to join the herd, and they're just trying, like in Pluribus. Imagine, I recently started watching a TV show called Pluribus, so imagine being part with those people that have no emotions, they're just phlegmatic and unresponsive to anything you have created as an aspect of art or whatever the fuck you have imagined. So avoid those people forever. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to the S2E9 episode. We are coming almost to an end of the second season, 3 more to go. Christ is King. So until then, S2E10 should be up in this week very, very soon. So until then, thank you so much once again for joining to my channel. I really appreciate it. You can click and just click that submission button so I can philosophize over and over. Thank you. I wish you a great rest of the upcoming week. Stay safe, fight for yourself, become straight edge, believe, and fuck the system, because Christ is King. Christos Rex. And people are going to be afraid of that. Up until then, remember, man, as I mentioned in one of my videos, you can become straight edge, but boy, oh boy, there is a price to pay.